Ta-da! This is what it looks like to relinquish control, letting go, opening your palms out, and releasing. Yes. Welcome to Improv On and Off the Topic. I'm Shannon Stott, and you're about to see Emily Arnold. And today we're talking about relinquishing control, why people keep saying things like, you should just let it go, man. Let go, let live, that kind of stuff. Is it even is it necessary? Are there benefits? And also, how does improv even help us understand how to let go or relinquish control? What does it have to do with any of that? Listen, we're going to talk about all of it, but first we need Emily Arnold Fleming.
Hey, how's it going? So excited.
So excited. It's going great. Yeah, it's going great.
It's great. Yay, we're in a new month. We have a new theme. We're relinquishing control to the universe.
The universe, right? That's right. I'm telling you, you and I, we're talking about big theme is community for the year. Little theme is relinquishing control. I want to start very basic. Okay, we're like super basic when it comes to improv and on the stage, because basically improv is all about relinquishing control, right? Like at its core, that's what people's fear really stems from. Is
right. There's no script. If you come on, you can't come on and be like, hello, I'm going to take over every piece of this scene and do all of the things. You have to give up control to just your teammates, audience reactions, the mistakes that happen, just all of it. You can't have control in improv the way that you would in, say, like scripted comedy or stand-up.
That's right. And so there are lots of things that people say, I could never do that, whatever it is. But one of the things that you and I get a lot of as improvisers is we say we're going to rehearsal, right? Or practice. And then people are like, well, if it's improv, how do you practice improv? It's improv. How do you rehearse? It's like, well, and so in the conversation about one, improv is all about relinquishing control. Two, how we practice that is going to reflect directly onto off the stage, right? So let's talk a little bit about what it means to rehearse improv or to practice improv.
Yeah, so we do. So on and off the stage is basically about, let's talk about our improv skills. Right. And that's what we practice in rehearsals, right? Is we practice our skills through drills, and then we apply them to games. Kind of like if you think about like when you're learning math, you do a bunch of different math problems to learn how to multiply or how to do quadratic equations or whatever. Right. So that when you have the test, you're not doing the same exact equations that you did when you learned about it in school that day, but you're doing the same application, the same strategies, the same steps, and you're solving the problem and living in the moment in the math equation, just like in improv when we learn our skills and we plug our skills into the scene equation.
Right. Yeah. The idea, let's take some like regular stuff that a lot of people might know. So the game of zip, zap, zop, right? The game of zip, zap, zop basically is lots of people standing in a circle. The pattern goes zip, zap, zop. So you point at someone, you say zip. They point at somebody else, they say zap. They point at somebody else, they say zop. And it goes like that. You keep doing that over and over again. Now, a lot of times when you see this game, like people are focusing on the clapping or they're focusing on a whole bunch of different things. But at its core, when I teach it, we're looking at making eye contact. We're looking at being prepared for something to come at us. We're looking at quickly responding to what is coming at us and making sure that the eye contact we're making with someone else, that they're ready to receive whatever it is, that zip, that zap, or that zop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when we take that exact same thing and we put it on stage, right? We're going right from that application, that drill that you're talking about, and applying it on stage. When Emily and I are doing any sort of scene work, when I say, wow, Emily, it's raining oranges, that's my zip, right? I'm giving her an offer. She's responding. She's looking me in my eyeballs. She's responding. And then she's quickly using that zap sort of idea to respond to it. And then maybe if there's somebody else, that person is responding to that. So that's what we're training with many of the things.
And because like we teach like the quickness of that response is so important, right? You're not, when you're teaching that game, it's like there's no wrong person to toss the zap or the zop to, right? And so it's not just like being quick, but recognizing that like whatever you're going to say is fine. Like you can toss it to Fred every single time, whatever, that's great. Doesn't matter as long as you make a decision and you stick to it. Similarly, when you give me it's raining oranges and I say, oh boy, I need a stronger umbrella. Great. That's an excellent response. It might not be like the cleverest response or like, you know, I like to tell people when we're doing things, I'm like, we're not winning Emmys here. Like we're not winning like super fancy red carpet awards. We are just having trust in ourselves and responding, knowing that no matter what you say, it's okay.
Right.
By the way, and I want to, we haven't asked any questions of our viewers yet.
Oh, yes.
I want to know, because, you know, we're talking about other skills that we do with Zip Zap Zop. You know, I'm curious, Shannon, because those are the skills that we teach like in 101 Zip Zap Zop. Do you, or anyone in the chat, do you like layer additional challenges or like objectives onto Zip Zap Zop?
Yes.
Because I think that's what makes it such an enduring game, is that you can do so many things. I've been challenging myself when I play with my team. My own like personal challenge is to pass alphabetically around the circle, which makes it additionally interesting for me because I'm juggling. One of the skills that we have in improv is juggling multiple things at once. So I'm juggling paying attention, but then also like sticking to the pattern that I've set, which makes it very funny. And I get some, because I, you know, fail frequently, which is why I keep doing it. And people are like, why are you failing at Zip Zap Zop?
You shouldn't be failing. This is we all know Zip Zap Zop.
Guess what? If I'm not failing, it's not fun.
It's not fun. That's the thing. This is it. Oh, now we're getting into it.
Do you have a challenge that you put on like that game or like any other games?
Yeah, for that, like we can stick to that game. That one, I really enjoy doing the numbered. So we go around, it goes zip, zap, zop, but then it goes zip, zip, zap, zap, zop, zop. And then it goes zip, 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 zap, 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 zop, 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 and then back down, which I love that. Because if we are going quickly and you're paying attention, that is the part, right? Where are we in the progression and the dissension of the zips and the zaps? And then also giving up the care, right? We do not care. It's really one of the things I really like to tell my troops or the people who I'm playing with is that the stakes are low. The stakes are so low. We're not trying to win Emmys, right? I don't have any candy for you. I always tell them, I don't have any candy for you. I have no cash. I have no prizes. Really what we're doing here is trying to work together and then support each other when we fail, right? When we make a mistake, because that reaction to making mistakes, like that supporting, that is going to transfer right onto stage, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
rolling with mistakes too. Like if you play, sometimes I'll also play where I don't stop people if they mess up the pattern. I'm like, well, I'm usually like, okay, well, what does it turn into now? Like now is it zip, 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 zip? Or
right.
like now are we like doing different letters? Are we doing like zoop and like other vowel sounds? Are we doing blip, blap, blop?
Yep.
What are we doing?
Right.
And so again, other ways to make these skills that we take and we plunk them onto stage. So circling back to relinquishing control, that when we get to a space where we are genuinely creating something out of nothing, we have practiced these skills to be able to roll with whatever comes.
Right. Yes. And the one thing that you said about about doing it alphabetically, trusting in yourself. Yes. So this idea, I love that. This idea that you are, yes, juggling a whole bunch of different things, but you're trying to instill trust in yourself that you can juggle the things, juggle the zip zap zop, and also give precedence or give some focus to this other layer that you're putting on there. And because the stakes are low, we're practicing, or you're practicing in that moment, trusting yourself. It's okay. So that when we're talking about relinquishing control, this is where we're starting to bleed over, right? Into off the stage, because we are practicing these things for the stage, for the scenes. But when we're practicing trusting ourselves, when we have a trust in ourselves, it makes it a little bit easier. It's one of the first steps of relinquishing some control, right? Over something else out in the world.
Yeah. And it's a lot of, especially because which seems a little counterintuitive, right? People are thinking like, if you really trust yourself, then you would be the one in charge and you have to really trust others. But if you're trusting yourself, then you're trusting that you're going to be okay.
Yes.
No matter what comes at you. Again, true on and off the stage, right? So like on stage, one of my favorite things is to play with newer, greener improvisers, because I love that as a challenge for myself to be like, I know that I can be fine no matter what happens. So like, let's have some fun and explore what we do and make this person feel supported and just have a good time.
A good time. Yeah, that I love that too. And I think probably similarly is when you have gotten to a spot where you are so good at playing with someone, you feel it's almost like a trick, because you feel like you're relinquishing control because you're still doing improv, right? It's still improv. You still sort of don't know what the audience is going to throw at you. But when you are playing with someone who you've played with, like a duo partner who you've played with time and time and time again, you basically understand how they're playing. You understand what they are going to throw at you and where that's going to come. When you're playing with newer players, you're flooded with that new excitement, that new energy. You don't know where, or newer players or just people that you haven't played with before.
Yeah.
You don't know where they're going. You don't know their style of play. And yes, the trusting in yourself that you've practiced those skills of listening, of zip zap zopping, all of those helps you to feel like I'm going to be okay. It's going to be okay. This scene is going to be fine. Yeah.
So let's take this back off the stage. So we don't have, when you go to the office, you're not showing up and people aren't zip zap zopping you in your office. If they were, that would be cool. That you all know that you can hire improvisers.
You can
teach your office how to play games, and you should. Welcome to people who would gladly accept your money. But like, what what we say are things that we do, what we can do off stage to build that self-confidence, to be able, the skills that we need to be able to trust ourselves when stuff comes along, we need to give up control.
So I'm going to go with today is some basic stuff we're going to talk about. It's just way basic, right?
Next week is here.
Next week is here, right here. So the other thing, we talk about zip, zap, zop, how do you practice? How do you practice improv? It's improvise. One of the things that everyone knows as far as improv goes is yes, right? Saying yes. When we say yes to things that we would usually balk at, right? That's not a good idea. We tried that last year. I've thought about where that could go and I'm not seeing it clearly. Let's stick to the tried and true, these types of things, right? When we get into that, we miss opportunities. We can miss opportunities, personal growth opportunities, company growth opportunities, those types of things. But improv teaches us to say yes, to say, I hear you. I am acknowledging whatever it is that you are saying, and I'm responding in kind. And in this particular talk, we're talking about relinquishing control. And that response in kind is, can I give this up? Can I say yes to my business partner, my staff member, my employee, my boss, and see where that leads us?
Yeah. And I think we talked about how in improv things are low stakes. And so I think starting out, if you're the kind of person that is like, no,
right,
things, I think starting out with something that's low stakes is great. There's a difference between walking into the office and you have a big project coming up and someone else is like, I'm going to take over everything. And you're like, I don't know if that'll work. The big difference between that and your friend being like, hey, I want to try this new coffee place.
Right? Yeah, that's great.
So if that's something that you struggle with, then we can start smaller and really shape up that behavior by finding those smaller stakes things. Like, if you don't like that coffee, then what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
What's the worst thing? It's probably going to be okay. It really is going to be okay.
Coffee is probably not poison. It's probably not, $100. Like, it's probably, if you really hate that coffee, you're out $5, right?
Right. And here's the little bit of that. Even I like this coffee. We'll stick with this. I like this coffee thing. So one of the things on stage, when we relinquish control, when we say yes to things and we open ourselves up to opportunities, that's where quite literally the story is, right? That's where the narrative is going. We're saying yes because we want to see this. We want to see this dragon and this pig relationship, whatever it is. Like we want to see where that's going.
My favorite classic, almost seen it too many times, dragon and pig scene. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Pig scene happens all the time. That if we take that and we apply it to the coffee, right? Mm-hmm. I think that people really tend to hold on to this idea like, well, the worst that could happen is I pay for bad coffee, right? That the worst that could happen is that I reach into my pocket and I really don't enjoy the coffee that starts off my morning and now my whole day, da, 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 da. If we take that and turn it a little bit and we start to say yes to the story, right? This is what is going to start opening up opportunities when we practice saying, yes, okay, I'm going to try this coffee. I may not like it. Let's talk about why you didn't like it. Let's look at the packaging, the branding, the experience, the person behind the counter. You have a story now. You have two things. One, you have a story, and maybe you don't want to go back there. But two, you've practiced opening up a new opportunity for yourself. Mm-hmm. And when we do that more and more, just like you said, we can start to we can start to get to a spot where when bigger things come up, when it's not your coffee, when it is the project, or when it is dating somebody that is different than you usually date, right? Or when it is trying a new food, when it's saying yes to a trip, right? Any of those things, you're going to open up your life to just newer, bigger opportunities, and other opportunities are going to come towards you because people see you as a person who is willing to take chances, who is willing to think outside the box, whatever it is, because you're practiced at it.
Mm-hmm. And you learn stuff too, right? Like more than just like getting a story, you also learn so much about yourself and the world around you, and your community. And part of the yes is also that learning and that accepting that like this is what my environment is, right? Like I have accepted that I don't like dark roast coffee, that tastes a little too bitter to me, and that I prefer light roast coffee, whatever, right? And that's cool. And that's great. It's always good to learn more things about yourself, about the world, about how you work, about how your community works, about what effect you have on your community and the community has on you when certain things happen. And it's rarely like an experience. There are plenty of awful things that happen in life, right? But even in the awful things, we learn things about the world, right? Even when we talked last week a lot about like tragedy and the crap and the bad stuff. And even in those, right, like we still find, we find that we learn things. We figure out how we process stress. We figure out how our friends can support us, like what good people our friends are sometimes. And there's always things to learn, even in crap, even in like the crap.
Yeah, and the spot of being in crap, right? When we don't have the skills of relinquishing control, when we sit in crap, when things are happening to us that are less than great, it is harder to move through those times. It is harder for us to move through. It is harder for us to navigate. There's a word I'm looking for. It's escaping me right now, but just to process and to overcome. It's harder to do those things because we are so stuck. We're so holding on to the way something should be. And now that thing is changed, right? So when we practice relinquishing control on these smaller scales, that thing that you're talking about as far as learning, we learn about ourselves, and we learn that we are resilient and we can get through certain things because we can deal with change in the way our lives are different, or the scene is different, or our jobs are different, whatever has changed in the moment.
Absolutely. If you're watching this, my guess is you've probably lived about at least 20 something years, probably older, because you're probably on Facebook and you're probably not like a cool kid who uses TikTok or like.
Wow, you are really getting this demographic.
Yeah, we're nailing the Facebook demographic. Anyway, think about how many years you've lived in your life and how many years you've survived in your life, right? Mm-hmm. And how much stuff you've been through and you've been able to get through already in your life, right? So you do have that resilience and that life experience that you've been able to make it through. You have such a strong learning history already to be able to say on some level, like, yeah, I'll continue to survive if this happens. I'm a strong, independent human. I'll be fine.
Yeah, and there are so many different ways to release. And I'm thinking right now, you and I and Luke Wallens, who definitely is on the science team of Improv on and off the stage, we were talking about relinquishing control. We were talking about games specifically. And one of the games that's coming to mind right now is moving bodies, right? And I am thinking about how that you and I have had some health issues, right? We're having some health stuff going on. And when I think about the game Moving Bodies and how you have control over what you say, someone else has control over your body movements, where you can go, how your body moves in space. And that game, I mean, correlates so directly to breaking your leg, like hurting your body, having whatever happened to you that is taking away your actual physicality, your control over your own body, and getting sick in general, right? Just in however one gets sick or however one has health detriment. And when we practice this idea of it's okay to release the control. It's okay. How do we use different methods of telling our story? How do we use different methods of moving through space and time, whether it's moving bodies or whether it's literally not being able to move your body, or your body is changing over time? How do you move through time and space? I love that correlation, just because, when I was sitting and laying and not being able to move, like, I had to really come up with some other ways to move through time and space to get things done, right?
Yeah. And to be able to accept and kind of give up the idea that like we're going to be super productive, right?
Right.
I'm going through more than just like, I'm going through kind of like a chronic thing right now where I'm having a hard time standing for long periods of time, right? And so like I haven't been able to do a full improv show lately, and that's okay. And I'm like giving up that, like, I'm gonna be fine. If I need to, if I really want to, like I can set up my own kind of accommodations, but I don't have to have that control of being like, no, I will stand and I will roll around on the floor and I will be just as wild as I was when I started at 23. And I can be a little more flexible and trust myself that I'll get through it, right?
Yeah.
And that it's going to be fine. I'm not going to, the stakes are not so high that I'm going to like lose my improv skill or like my position in this world forever. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes, I do. And the word productive is so good, Emily, because the way our society is built, as far as like, how can I be productive? It takes my full body, my full attention, my full brain, my full power, my full energy to be productive. And when we look at what productive is on stage for improv, it is telling a story, right? How do I use all my resources, including other people, including the audience, including all of everything that's in your tool belt, to tell this story? That's the productive. Whereas off stage, if you think of it like that, instead of thinking productivity means finishing this project for work, getting this project in, like making the money. That is one way to be productive. But another way to be productive is to brush your teeth. Like, did you do that? You know what I mean? Or were you able to read your book? Were you able to sit up in bed and breathe today? Right?
Were you able to just get through today? And you're, especially when you're sick, your body's doing a lot of work already, right? Yes. So like, were you just able to let your body do what it does and just, de-stress, not worry about it? Nothing is that urgent. We have a giant pile of laundry on my dining room table right now. It's okay. It's just laundry.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that the practice of improv helps us to look at that pile of laundry not as a defeat, right? Not as a defeat, but more of part of the story, because there's something else that you were able to do that is productive, that is an accomplishment, right?
Yeah. And with that, we're at 30.
I know, so, I saw it.
It's time to give up the control of talking and telling all of our things. So this has been awesome. This has been Improv on Off the Topic, where we are talking about relinquishing control. Our yearly theme is community. And we'll see you next Monday.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Where Shannon does our tagline.
Yes, we're of course, because we always love to see you on and
off the stage. Goodbye.
Bye.